Catherine and Diane, the shadow and the flame. The girl with the papal blood. At 14, Catherine de Medici crossed the Alps not with triumph, but with quiet trepidation. The Pope's niece, clothed in Florentine velvet and diplomatic ambition, was given to the French Dauphin like a pawn placed with precision on the European chessboard. But the court of France, radiant and cruel, greeted her not as a queen, but as an accessory, a womb with a title. Her lineage, though grand, carried neither the magic of beauty nor the intoxication of charm in the eyes of her new husband. And that gaze, indifferent, distant, already belonged to another. Diane de Poitiers was everything Catherine was not, statuesque, composed, serene in her confidence. 20 years Henry's senior, she should have been a mother figure. Instead, she became the pulse of his youth. He wore her colors in tournaments, drank from cups etched with her initials, and offered her not only jewels but whispers of state. She was not merely a mistress. She was the moon by which the king navigated his tides. Catherine watched from the marble coldness of the Louvre galleries, her presence reduced to the practical. She bore him children, attended ceremonies, bowed when expected. And yet, behind her stillness stirred an intelligence unacknowledged. She read. She listened. She endured. The queen bears sons, and is silent, wrote one court lady, whose eyes saw the balance of affection and humiliation. Widowhood and the reign of memory. Henry II's death came like divine punctuation, sudden and theatrical. A jousting lance, splintered and unforgiving, entered his helmet and struck the eye, ending not just a tournament but an era. As blood mixed with dust on the field, France lost its axis. And Catherine, wrapped in black, gained hers. She did not wail. She ruled. The same hand that once signed letters as a powerless consort now signed decrees. Castles that bore Diane's name were reclaimed. The favorite was exiled, her influence erased with the efficiency of ink on parchment. Catherine rose not as a grieving widow, but as regent, mother to the boy king and matriarch to a fractured realm. She wore mourning like armor, and behind her veil of sorrow formed a government forged from memory. The court that once mocked her now knelt. Those who whispered, Italian sorceress, behind her back now sought her favor. And deep within her chambers, past the rosaries and relics, lay maps marked with confessions, alliances, and heretics. The Reformation tore through Europe like wildfire. In Paris, it ignited fear. Catherine, pragmatic and merciless in her statecraft, ordered what history would later brand barbaric. On the night of St. Bartholomew's Day, bells rang not for prayer, but for slaughter. Protestants, gathered under the false promise of royal protection, were cut down in the streets. It was said the Seine ran red for days. The enemy must not see the dawn, read the order. A line now infamous. But to her, it was not poetry. It was necessity. The silent exile of beauty. Diane de Poitiers lived her remaining years not in chains, but in silence. Her wealth was curtailed, her name struck from court documents, her image left to age in tapestries and half-finished portraits. Once the center of splendor, she became a ghost walking through rose gardens of confiscated estates. She never returned to Paris. Without Henry, she was a relic of an era the crown wished to forget. Time, that gentle but relentless executioner, took her slowly. First her letters ceased. Then her correspondence. Finally, her memory. The woman who once dictated royal taste now drank alone from fountains she once commissioned, her hair no longer adorned, her gowns no longer kissed by candlelight. And yet, whispers remained. That had Henry chosen loyalty over passion, France might have walked a different path. That Catherine, no saint, but no monster, had only become iron because love had made her clay for too long. There is no fury like that of a woman denied, not love, but recognition. Catherine had been both queen and ghost. When she returned, she did so with teeth. The road not taken. History is a tyrant that permits no rewrites, yet the mind dares to dream. Imagine a moment where Henry II, aging and weary of court masquerades, looks to Catherine not as a mother to his heirs, but as a sovereign to his soul. The mistress dismissed, the queen embraced, not out of duty, but discovery. The potential of a partnership long delayed. Under this imagined union, the royal decrees shift tone. Catherine is seated at the council, her hands steadying the rudder of the monarchy. Education reforms replace religious purges. The Edict of Tolerance is signed, not centuries late, but decades early. France does not bleed, it reasons. The Renaissance flourishes not just in art, but in ethics. The crown becomes not just an ornament of divine right but a contract with its people. Catherine, educated in humanism, becomes its living symbol. In this vision, the Louvre houses not memories of slaughter but salons of discourse. And Catherine is remembered not as the widow of blood, but as the mother of constitutional monarchy. The ink of such a future never touched the page. Echoes in marble and memory. Catherine's legacy lies not in gardens or statues, but in the pages stained by judgment. Her enemies called her a poisoner, a witch, a Medici serpent in the heart of France. But history seldom asks, what happens to a woman who waits too long in the dark? She had not been born cruel. She had been made patient. And then, necessity gave her permission. Those who read only the Massacre forget the decades that led to it. The court dinners where she was ignored. The state councils held in her absence. The festivals where Diane glittered, and she remained veiled. The humiliations piled like stones, each one a step toward ruthlessness. When she finally ascended, she blinked less and saw more. France, in mourning, buried Henry in a marble tomb. But it was Catherine who wrote the epitaph of the age. She had been the shadow. Now, she was the crown.